Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. You know, right-wing Republican Congressman Madison Cawthorn of North Carolina has been in a bit of trouble lately. He's been making headlines all over the place and seems to have enemies everywhere he looks, including a significant portion of Republicans and conservatives who have it out for him. Now, at first blush, that does not make a whole lot of sense. Madison Cawthorn is a rising star in the party. But we're going to explain why this is happening and what it says about what kind of behavior Republicans will and will not patrol, what they will and will not go after, what they will and will not abide. Because Madison Cawthorn is a perfect illustration of where their red line actually is. Ever since Donald Trump came down the golden escalator at Trump Tower in 2015 announcing his bid for the presidency, it's been this kind of floating unanswered question. Under what circumstances will Republicans truly unite against one of their own? How far is too far? Just this month, Senator Mitch McConnell refused to say where he draws the line. That comes after he called Donald Trump morally responsible for the insurrection, but still says he would support the ex-president in another run for the White House.
So moral red lines, where do you draw them?
I'm perfectly comfortable with the way I have conducted my political career, and I'd be happy to respond to any specificity you want to apply to the term. What was it?
Moral red lines.
Moral red line. Yeah.
Well, let me give you.
I'm very comfortable with my moral red line.
The vast majority of Republicans joined McConnell in standing by Trump after he incited the deadly insurrection, an attempt on the lifeblood of American democracy. And most of them have stood by and said nothing as members of their party speak at the conferences of avowed white nationalists and Holocaust deniers. And as this kind of atrocious behavior happens more and more often, it feels baffling, frustrating. Why can't they do anything? Well, in some cases, they can. Just ask our buddy Madison Cawthorn. Now, the 26-year-old was elected in 2020, winning the seat that Mark Meadows actually vacated when he became Donald Trump's chief of staff. And it was an upset after both Trump and Meadows endorsed Cawthorn's opponent. But Cawthorn quickly and successfully became a MAGA darling, joining the cohort of outrageous far-right House members that now includes Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia and Matt Gaetz of Florida and Paul Gosar of Arizona. Now, suddenly, he's in a lot of hot water. And the calls are clearly coming from inside the House. It began about a week ago when Politico published these photos that appear to show Cawthorn wearing women's lingerie at a party, which they say were provided, quote, by a person formerly close to Cawthorn in his campaign. Cawthorn did confirm their veracity in a tweet that blamed his liberal opponents, which seems unlikely. Quote, I guess the left thinks goofy vacation photos during a game on a cruise taken way before I ran for Congress is somehow going to hurt me. I don't speak for the left, but I don't think it came from the left, and I don't really care about the photos. A few days later, this article appeared in the conservative magazine, The Washington Examiner, detailing an allegation from multiple watchdog groups that Cawthorn may have violated federal insider trading laws. The accusation, and you're really not going to believe it until you hear it, it centers around the Let's Go Brandon cryptocurrency, a meme coin set up in the wake of the chant mocking President Joe Biden, of course. Last December, Cawthorn appeared in this Instagram photo posted by the creator of the coin and commented, quote, LGB legends, tomorrow we go to the moon. The next day, LGB coin did exactly as the lawmaker predicted, spiking 75% after a NASCAR driver announced it would be the primary sponsor of his 2022 season. The watchdog groups allege the evidence suggests that Cawthorn may have advanced non-public knowledge of the deal and warrants an investigation from the Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission. In the wake of those accusations, North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis, he's upset. He's disturbed. He thinks there's stuff to respond here. He spoke out against his counterpart in the House, saying Cawthorn, quote, owes North Carolinians an explanation. He also called for an inquiry by the House Ethics Committee. Oh, but that wasn't all. On Wednesday, an anti-Cawthorn political action committee requested the Office of Congressional Ethics investigate the congressman for multiple alleged violations of House rules, 3 of which are related to gifts and loans they say Cawthorn gave a member of his staff named Stephen Smith. Then yesterday, the Daily Mail published several of the salacious exhibits included in that request. Now, just to be clear, the Daily Mail is a British tabloid that runs all sorts of gossip. This is a recent piece on Tiger King star Joe Exotic to give you an idea of the sort of standard we're dealing with here. What they published about Madison Cawthorn is obviously ultimately part of this campaign to destroy him. They echo the salacious accusations made in that ethics complaint that Cawthorn is engaged in an improper relationship with Smith, his senior aide. They published a video which purports to show Smith touching the U.S. Congressman inappropriately, as well as some of their Venmo payment history from June 2018, which they describe as being littered with suggestive messages. Now, again, just to be really clear, none of this is confirmed. We haven't independently verified it. And again, on the Daily Mail stuff, I have no idea about the context of messages or the video, if they're real or they're like ironic in kind of a dumb and childish way. Honestly, I could not possibly really care less. But the point of them all, obviously, is to tank Madison Cawthorn's prospects in his conservative Southern District. Now, instead of denying these wild accusations, Cawthorn released a video blaming rhinos, but never really denying any of the allegations.
We have the North Carolina political establishment and one rhino senator who have really targeted me are coming hard. They're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars to be able to defeat me. And they're starting to say just these ridiculous, salacious lies. I hear from my supporters all the time. I just got this call of people polling. They said that you want to raise our tax dollars, which is absurd. I want to remove the federal income tax. That I want to cut Social Security spending when that is the exact opposite of what I want to do. We're starting to see this coordinated drip campaign. When I say a drip campaign, it's where they're going to drop an attack article every 1 or 2 days just to try and kill us with a death by 1,000 cuts. And that is really their main strategy.
Again, there's a broad sort of buffet of accusations here. I don't know if they're true. Some of them seem to be like worth investigation. Some of them seem kind of ridiculous. But it's clear they're part of a full-scale attack. This is a barrage, like Cawthorn described, where certain forces that are opposed to him on the right in the Republican Party are just throwing everything they can at him. Now, Madison Cawthorn has made it easy for them. But why have they chosen Madison Cawthorn as their target? Like, what did Madison Cawthorn do to deserve this treatment? He did support the Trump coup, but that, of course, wasn't it. They don't punish people for that. There was, however, his comment about Republican Coke orgies.
Look at all these people. A lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys. That then all of a sudden you get invited to like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove addiction in our country, and then you watch them do a key bump of cocaine right in front of you.
Now, in the Republican Party, it is one thing to talk about how the libs are degenerates, worshiping Satan, grooming children in pizza shop basements. That's fine. It's a whole other thing to suggest that your fellow Republicans are doing the things that Cawthorn alleged there. Key bumps of cocaine, I think was the term. They were very upset about that interview to the podcast. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy told Cawthorn he, quote, lost his trust in him, which is very serious. That's something he never said to, say, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, even after she spoke at the podium next to a white nationalist Holocaust denier. And Senator Thom Tillis even endorsed Cawthorn's opponent, saying Cawthorn had fallen well short of the most basic standards Western North Carolina expects from the representatives. Man, I mean, okay, I guess they didn't like the key bumps at the Coke orgies. Fine. There's another major factor at play here, too. As Charlie Pierce describes it in Esquire, Cawthorn picked a fight with a Koch brother mini-me. That Koch brother mini-me would be Art Pope, the multimillionaire who's a right-wing force in the state and bankrolled the Republican takeover of the North Carolina state legislature. Quote, cross Art Pope as a Republican in North Carolina, and you have the political half-life of a dead vice president. And Cawthorn clearly crossed him, to be clear, when he decided to run in the newly redrawn 13th district, which had been tailor-made for the Republican Speaker of the North Carolina House. As Pierce puts it, Cawthorn meddled the primal forces of nature, and he will atone. So yes, there are lines you cannot cross in the Republican Party. The story of Madison Cawthorn shows that you cannot go up against the wrong rich mega donor with a right-wing agenda he needs to implement and favors he needs to dole out to politicians who carry his water. You cannot openly question the moral degeneracy of your Republican colleagues. You can, however, support the overturning of American democracy, the installation of a dictator against the will of the people, and for that, you won't get in any trouble. As others have pointed out, what is happening to Madison Cawthorn is kind of what it would look like if Republicans, say, really turned on Donald Trump after he incited an insurrection. or even if they decided to hold Marjorie Taylor Greene or Paul Gosar accountable for their actions. But of course, they have not. I suppose it's some combination of the fact they're scared. They don't actually care about the infractions. And that's the thing, right? They don't care about democracy, about whether this system endures, the will of the people. They care about, their personal reputations for being non-Coke orgy attenders and maintaining their hold on power. And Madison Cawthorn has threatened that.